Hello. Yeah, let's have a conversation about how many people are going to be in eternity in the reign of Yahuwah. I'm sure we've all heard both sides of this story or coin, if you will. Many people stand on the belief that only a remnant will be delivered. And other ones have the opinion that nearly everyone will be delivered through grace. And so we have this debate or dilemma or contrast between us whether or not very few, a very small remnant will be uh, delivered and get to live in immortal bodies for eternity with Yahuwah, or if there'll actually be a large uh, throng of people delivered uh, as the sand of the sea shore that cannot be numbered. So it's an interesting conversation, and it's kind of long. It's hard to do a fast study on this topic. Uh, and So what we'll do is we'll just kind of split it, and let's look at the remnant side of the coin first. Those who believe that there's only going to be a small remnant, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll go into the multitude or many. There'll be many people in eternity in the reign of Yahuwah will be delivered. Okay, and we'll take a look at it, and we'll try to hit most of the subjects. How about the people that never knew the truth, never knew the true name? How about those that lived before Yahusha came down and became our uh, blood sacrifice, and so forth and so on? We'll try to hit on most of the points if we can here. And one thing that we really need to realize here is that we probably aren't going to get at any specific conclusion here, okay? But I think we can come into a sort of mutual agreement, on what and who and how many beings will be delivered and live in the reign of Yahuwah for eternity with immortal bodies. So let's get started on it, and we'll start with the remnant. And now most people that claim that there's only going to be very few, a remnant delivered, they love to point at, the flood, Noah's flood. So the first time that the earth was destroyed and people were punished, Yahuwah punished his creation, if you will, for sinning, disobedience, was during the flood, and only 8 souls were delivered. Okay, out of that, 8. So a lot of them like to point to that, there was only 8 people saved the first time. Might not be that many saved the second time either. But the difference here is that the people before the flood, there, a lot of them were their DNA was corrupt because they were the messengers, the fallen messengers, had come, left their principality, and came down and bred with the daughters of men and animals and created giants. And they corrupted Yahuwah's creation. And so he wiped that out and started over, basically. not totally over, but with Noah, who through his generations was perfect. And so in other words, it wasn't corrupted from Yahuwah's original design through his DNA. Okay, and so he started over. So the difference is the second judgment of sin and everything in the destruction of the earth through fire instead of water is slightly different because this is going to go into eternity. All right, so it's going to be eternal, permanent, everlasting. So I don't believe it's the same thing. I don't think Yahuwah is starting over again because somebody corrupted his creation. I think he is going to move forward into eternity where love and truth and perfection reigns. Okay, light, no evil, no darkness, no sin. In other words, he's going to restore everything back to his original design, his perfected love, and reinstate the universal law of love. And everybody's going to be obedient and live under that for everlasting life, eternity. So I think there's a little bit of a difference there. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started on it. Let's start at Romans 9, verse 15. Okay? It says, "For he says to Moses, I shall favor whomever I favor, and I shall have compassion on whomever I have compassion. So then it is not of him who is wishing, nor of him who is running, but of Yahuwah who shows favor. For the scripture says to Pharaoh, for the same purpose I have raised you up, to show my power in you, and that my name be declared in all the earth. So then he favors whom he wishes, and he hardens whom he wishes. Then you shall say to me, why does he still find fault? For who has resisted his counsel? But who are you, O man, to talk back to Yahuwah? Shall that which is formed say to him who formed it, why have you made me like this? Does not the potter have authority over the clay, from the same lump to make one vessel for value and another not for value? And if Yahuwah, desiring to show wrath and to make his power known, with much patience tolerated the vessels of wrath prepared for destruction, and that he might make known the riches of his esteem on vessels of compassion, which he had prepared beforehand for esteem. Even whom he called, not only us of the Yehudim, but also of the nations? As he says in Husha, or Joshua too, I shall call them my people, who were not my people, and her beloved, who was not beloved. And it shall be in the place where it was said to them, you are not my people. There they shall be called sons of the living Yahuwah. And Yashayahu cries out on behalf of Yezreel, though the number of the children of Yezreel be as the sand of the sea, the remnant shall be delivered. For he is bringing a matter to an end, and is cutting it short in righteousness, because Yahuwah shall cut short a matter on the earth. And as Yashayahu said before, if Yahuwah Sabaoth had not left us a seed, we would have become like Sodom, and we would have been made like Gomorrah. What shall we say then? That nations not following after righteousness have obtained righteousness, even the righteousness of belief? But Israel, following after the Torah of righteousness, has not arrived at the Torah of righteousness. Why? Because it was not of belief, but as by works of Torah. For they stumbled at the stone of stumbling. As it has been written, see, I lay in Zion a stone of stumbling, and a rock that makes for falling. And everyone who is believing on him shall not be put to shame. All right. So what's this telling us? Because it was not a belief, but it's works of the Torah, is speaking of animal sacrifices and keeping the ordinances and all the laws and everything, and circumcision, adult circumcision laws, this type of stuff that they thought was going to get them into the covenant and deliver them. Okay, and they had stumbled in the stone of stumbling, which is the Messiah, Yahusha, right? So everyone believing on him shall not be put to shame. So if you believe on him, they may call you a cuckoo and this and that, but you're not going to be put to shame, are you, in the long run? So this is what this is saying, is that there are vessels that were prepared, vessels of wrath, okay, prepared for destruction in the beginning. They were not his in the beginning. He just made them for his purposes. And then there were vessels of compassion, which he prepared beforehand for his esteem. Okay, so, and this was done before the foundations of the earth, beforehand, before he created anything. So what this is telling us is Yahuwah knew who was going to disobey and who would choose death, wickedness and evil over good life, and righteousness and obedience, and worship him and love him rather than hate him and be disobedient. So he knew who was going to do what before he even made anybody. So what did he do? He made the vessel. He went ahead out of love, because Yahuwah is love. So out of perfect and pure love, he still made them all, even though some were made, the ones that he knew would be disobedient and choose death, would be destroyed, and then the other ones who would be obedient and love him, and he made them vessels, his treasured possessions, okay, beforehand to esteem. Okay, and so out of his perfect love, he went ahead and gave everyone life. Okay, but then the fall would come, and then there would be a choice that would have to be made, life and death, and he knew who they would be. So the ones that he knew that would choose death, he still made them, but they were vessels of wrath, made for destruction. Okay, the ones that he knew would love him, be obedient to him, he made his treasured possessions, and he knew they would choose life. See that? So this is what this is saying, is their people are made for eternal, to live in eternal reign with him, and then there's people that was not made to live in eternity with him. Okay, there we go. So we don't know the ratio, we just know there are. Okay, all right. So let's go to Luke chapter 13, verse 22. And when Yahushua was going through the cities and villages, teaching and traveling toward Jerusalem, and someone said to him, Master, are there few who are being delivered? And he said to them, Strive to enter through the narrow gate, Because many, I say to you, shall seek to enter in, and shall not be able. When once the master of the house has risen up and shut the door, and you begin to stand outside and knock at the door, saying, Master, Master, open for us, and he shall answer and say to you, I do not know you, where you are from. Then you shall begin to say, We ate and drank in your presence, and you taught in our streets. But he shall say, I say to you, I do not know you, where you are from. Depart from me, all you workers of injustice. There shall be weeping and gnashing of the teeth when you see Abraham and Yitzchak and Jacob and all the prophets in the reign of Yahuwah and yourselves thrown outside. And they shall come from the east and the west and from the north and the south and sit down in the reign of Yahuwah. And see, there are last who shall be first, and there are first who shall be last. All right. So this is saying that many are called, the few are chosen, basically, right? So strive to enter through the narrow gate, because many, I say to you, shall seek to enter and shall not be able. Okay, so whatever this remnant group is, okay, very few are going to be able to get through the gate. And to me, this sounds like the ones that during the second resurrection that did not, did not believe in him, did not follow his teaching, because it said they said that you taught in our streets, we ate and drank in your presence. So it had to be in his era, the people in his era. So it seems like to me, the people that lived in his era that he walked on the earth, very few is going to be delivered out of that generation. That's what I think this is saying. I don't think this is meaning anything at all about everybody that ever lived on the planet, because we ate and we drank in your presence, and you taught in our streets. See that? I think we're talking about his era, the people in that particular generation when he walked the earth. Okay? You read it yourself, see what you think. All right, let's go to Matthew. So, anyways, if that is what it is, which I'm pretty sure it is, then in that generation that Yahusha lived in, just a very few are going to be delivered out of that. Okay, just a small remnant. Okay. So Matthew 7:12. Therefore, whatever you wish men to do to you, do also to them. For this is the Torah and the prophets. Enter in through the narrow gate. Enter in through the narrow gate. Yahusha is the narrow gate. Okay. Yahusha. Because the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and there are many who enter in through it. Because the gate is narrow and the way is hard pressed, which leads to life, and there are few who find it. But beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are savage wolves. By their fruits you shall know them. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? So every good tree yields good fruit, but a rotten tree yields wicked fruit. A good tree is unable to yield wicked fruit, and a rotten tree to yield good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. So then, by their fruits you shall know them. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter into the reign of Shemayim, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the Shemayim. Many shall say to me in that day, Master, Master, we not prophesied in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and done many mighty works in your name? And then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. You who work lawlessness, depart from me. Okay, so here we find out they enter through the narrow gate because the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction. And there are many who enter in through it because the gate is narrow and the way is hard pressed, which leads to life. And there are a few who find it. Okay, so there you go. And he's saying, beware of the false prophets in sheep's clothing. So apparently, the ones that are on the wide road are going to be following false teachers and false prophets. All right? So this seems to be talking about the time period between when Yahusha descended, okay, and ascended, and when and up to the tribulation point, years start. That's what this seems to be speaking of those. And it seems to be very few people will find it. It says, most people are going to be on the wide road to destruction, being led astray by teachers, false teachers, and false prophets during that time period. And it makes sense. It really does make sense if you think about it. So, I'm going to say, so far, it does appear that we have a remnant, okay? A remnant that's gonna find the door, the narrow, and find and walk through the narrow gate or the narrow door, which is Yahusha. Most of them are going to be led astray by false teachers and false prophets. So that's what this one seems to be applying to me. Let's just move on now. Let's look at Matthew 22. Matthew 22 says, and Yahusha responded and spoke to them again by parables and said, the reign of the Shemayim is like a man, a sovereign who made a wedding feast for his son and sent out his servants, the prophets, to call those who were invited to the wedding feast, but they would not come. And again he sent out other servants, saying, say to those who are invited, see, I have prepared my dinner. My oxen and fattened cattle are slaughtered, and all is ready. Come to the wedding feast. But they disregarded it and went their way, this one to his field, that one to his trade. And the rest, having seized his servants, insulted and killed them. That was the prophets. But when the sovereign heard, he was angry and sent out his soldiers, destroyed those murderers, and set their city on fire. Then he said to his servants, the wedding feast indeed is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. Therefore go into the street corners, and as many as you find, invite to the wedding feast. So here we go. He burned the city. Now this could be prophetically speaking of the second temple, destruction of the second temple in 70 A.D. They set Jerusalem on fire, tore down the temple, right? And so then it says, the wedding feast indeed is ready, but those who were invited were not worthy. They weren't worthy. They turned against him, didn't they? Therefore, go into the street corners, as many as you find, invite the wedding feast. Okay, so here we go. He's inviting more people, possibly a different flock. And those servants went out into the street corners and gathered all whom they found, both wicked and good. I see, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Both wicked and good. And the wedding hall was filled with guests. So filled with guests. And when the sovereign came in to view the guests, he saw there a man who had not put on a wedding garment. And he said to him, Friend, how did you come in here not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Okay, so he didn't have on a wedding garment. That means he didn't have the Ruach HaKodesh in him. He wasn't sealed for the day of redemption. What was he doing at the wedding supper of the Lamb? Because this is what this is prophesying. Okay. Where it says he gathered, found both wicked and good. That's because Yahuwah made both wicked and good. He makes the rain fall on the just and the unjust. The sun rises on the wicked and the good. Okay? So he can choose compassion on whomever he has compassion, favor on whoever he has favor. So this is telling me that some of the people who we maybe perceive or judge as wicked and ain't going to make it is going to make it because Yahuwah's going to bring them in. So you got to be careful of what you're saying about. You can't judge salvation, man, at all. It's none of your business. It's none of your affair. You better just leave it to that alone and let Yahuwah have what's his, and that is salvation and deliverance. Okay, we just stay humble and quiet about it. Really, you'd be better off, you know. So anyway, this guy didn't have a wedding garment on, so somehow this guy gets in there, and he's doesn't even have the ruach in him, so he's not part of the bride, or he's not invited to the feast. And he was speechless. Why was he speechless? Because he didn't know the word, man. You know, he didn't have any understanding or edification or truth in him to say anything about it, so he was kind of speechless. Then the sovereign said to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, take him away and throw him out into the outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of the teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. Many are called, but few are chosen. So what is this one speaking of? Well, since this is speaking mainly of a wedding feast, I think this is speaking of the bride. I really do. I think this is prophesying the bride of Yahusha. Okay? The few. The bride is going to make up the few. Many are called, but few are chosen. Okay? So, is this applying to everybody that ever lived? I don't think so. I think it's just talking about the bride myself. So, I think we'll just continue to go on, but at this point, I'd just like to pause and say this, that in my opinion, because I'm going to sound biased here, so I might as well just tell you what my opinion is here. Is that there's two groups, if you will, of people, two flocks, if you will. And I believe the remnant, the few, are the bride. And it's a small number. It is a remnant. I believe that. Because the bride has to be perfect, without spot or blemish, prepared herself, cleaned up, became virgin status, put off all filth and lies from her. Okay? Very few people are going to be able to do that, because you almost have to leave the world entirely to be able to do that. You got to stay unstained from the world. It's what stains you and makes you dirty, right? And the lies, the filth, the filthy talk from your mouth, all the nasty stuff of the world is what makes you dirty. Greed, the greed for gain, for money, greediness, all that stuff. So very few is able to remove themselves from the world and stay unstained from the world, clean themselves up, and run the race of endurance and stay cleaned up as a virgin prepared for her bridegroom. So I believe that's going to be a small remnant, but I also believe there's going to be another flock that's going to be a multitude, quite larger, quite a bit larger, that's going to be brought in also, and but they're going to be one flock and one shepherd. They're not going to stay apart from the bride. They're going to be in the family of Yahuwah. Okay, but they're not going to be his bride. In other words, they're going to be the children, the friends, the servants, brothers and sisters of the bride, but not the bride. That's just what I think. All right, so just keep that in mind. That's just my opinion, and we'll continue to study. And and when you hear my biasness, then you'll know why and how I'm leaning. But I want to try to stay as neutral and open-minded as possible all the way through the end of this video. Okay. So at this point, since I already revealed my position, let's take a small break, and then I'll be right back, and then we'll continue on with this very intriguing and interesting conversation, really. So I'll see you here in just a few seconds. Hello, I'm back now. Just so you know, when we left off, I revealed my position on this subject, and just in order to try to get a better understanding of that, yes, there are two different groups of people or two different flocks that is going to be in the eternal reign. Let's turn to Philippians 3, verse 7, and read a little bit about it. But what might have been a gain to me, I have counted as loss because of Mashiach. What is more, I even count all to be lost because of the excellence of the knowledge of Mashiach Yahusha, my master, for whom I have suffered the loss of all, and count them as rubbish, in order to gain Mashiach, and be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through belief in Mashiach, the righteousness which is from Yahuwah on the basis of belief. To know him in the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings, being conformed to his death, if somehow I might attain to the resurrection from the dead. So here Paul is referring to the first resurrection at the return of Yahusha. This is the higher calling at the beginning of the millennium reign. The second resurrection happens after the 1,000-year millennium reign of Yahusha. Okay? Not that I have already received or already been perfected, but I press on to lay hold of that for which Mashiach Yahusha has already laid hold of me. Brothers, I do not count myself to have laid hold of it yet, but only this, forgetting what is behind and reaching out for what lies ahead. I press on toward the goal for the prize of the higher calling of Yahuwah in Mashiach Yahusha. As many then as are perfect should have this mind. And if you think differently in any respect, Yahuwah shall also reveal this to you. Reveal what? That there's a higher calling. First resurrection. If there's a first resurrection, then there has to be a second resurrection, right? At the white throne judgment. So, right there alone gives us a clue that there is going to be two different flocks or groups of people being given eternal life. That's our first clue. All right. So let's just keep that in the back of our mind and continue on. Okay, so now we'll have to go into Revelations here. Revelations 4, verse 3. Chapter 3, verse 7. So Revelations chapter 3, verse 7. And to the messenger of the assembly in Philadelphia write, he who is set apart, he who is true, he who has the key of David, he who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens, says this: I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door, and no one is able to shut it, that you have little power, yet have guarded my word, and have not denied my name. See, I am giving up those of the assembly of Satan who say they are Yehudim and are not, but lie. See, I am making them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you, because you have guarded my word of endurance. I also shall guard you from the hour of trial which shall come upon all the world, to try those who dwell on the earths. See, I am coming speedily. Hold what you have, that no one take your crown. He who overcomes, I shall make him a supporting post in the temple of my Yahuwah, and he shall by no means go out. And I shall write on him the name of my Yahuwah, and the name of the city of my Yahuwah, the renewed Jerusalem, which comes down out of the heaven from my Yahuwah, in my renewed name. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Ruach says to the assemblies. So here we find out that the assembly of Philadelphia has little power. Okay, and they have not denied my name. Okay, so, and they also have guarded my word of endurance, he said. So this is obviously a small group because they have very little power. All right. Little power means little group. All right. Don't have a lot of people. When it comes to like an assembly or something, institution or company or something like that, the more the people, the more power you have, right? Because generally that brings more influence, more wealth, more strength, that kind of stuff. So smaller, the weaker. So it has to be a remnant group, the Assembly of Philadelphia. They have very little power. All right? But they have done nothing wrong. So they sound to be in pretty good standings with Yahusha. Okay, let's go over to Revelations 12, and let's read in verse 15. And out of his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river after the Asha, to cause her to be swept away by the river. Now here, this is speaking of pressure and false teachings, perhaps. And the earth helped the Asha, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth, which is pressure and false teachings, men's teachings, religions, traditions. Okay? And the dragon was enraged with the Asha, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Yahuwah and possessing the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. Okay? Now, we're going to go over here so that's a remnant, right? So what we just read there was that he went to fight with the remnant of her seed. So this is a small group as well. And who are they? Well, apparently they're guarding the commands of Yahuwah and possessing the witness of Yahusha. Small remnant is doing that. It's enraging the dragon. So that's a small remnant right there. And I believe that this is pointing to the first resurrection group or the bride. Okay? And that's just my opinion. We're going to stay neutral here as we go through this and open minded. But since I've already revealed my opinion, I'll just, like I said, I'm going to sound biased as we go through this. I can't help but to do that. And hopefully by the time we get through this, we'll come to some kind of a mutual agreement on what's going on here, okay? And how many people's going to be in the reign of Yahuwah. That's what we're searching for. All right. And I've been through this myself, several times, a bunch of times. So I've developed my opinion, okay? And you're going to hear that coming out, okay? If you've got your own opinion, that's great. You may be agreeing with me and you may be disagreeing with me at this point. I don't know. But let's just both try to stay open-minded and neutral as we study this together, and then see if we can come to some kind of a mutual agreement at the end of our study. Okay, that's the goal. So let's go to 14, chapter 14, and it says, "And I looked and saw a lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000." Now, 144,000 is a remnant. That's not a lot of people. It sounds like it's a lot of people, but it does not. It is not compared to everybody that's ever lived or all who's going to live up to Judgment Day, right? It's a very small, very, very small figure. It's almost, if you take that 144,000 and compare it to all the people that's ever lived from Adam and Chua to the white throne judgment, you're going to probably have a better chance of hitting the lottery about 10 times rather than find yourself in that group. It's a small remnant. Okay? It is very small. It's a large figure in one way, but in another way, it's very small when comparison to everyone that's lived or it's going to live from the beginning to the end, the white throne judgment. So anyway, and with them 144,000 having his father's name written upon their foreheads. Now this may not mean literally tattooed or inscribed on their forehead like that where you can read it. It could be just symbolic for they have it in their forehead in the foremost part of their brain. In other words, they know the name, they're familiar with the name, and they use the name. Could be meaning that. "And I heard a voice out of the heaven like the voice of many waters, and like the voice of loud thunder. And I heard the sound of harpists playing their harps. And they sang a renewed song before the throne, and before the 4 living creatures and the elders. And no one was able to learn that song except the 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth." So they were redeemed. So now we know that when you receive the Ruach HaKodesh, you are sealed for the day of redemption. So could this be the ones that have received the Ruach HaKodesh in them? Just 144,000? Could this be what this is meaning? It's a possibility that is what it means. 144,000 who were redeemed from the earth. "These are those who are not defiled with women, for they are maidens. This could be a metaphor. This is symbolic. It doesn't have to necessarily mean they've never had sex before and they're all men. Okay. This could just fairly mean that those who have cleaned themselves up to the point of virgin status, in other words, perfect, like they've never ever sinned. Okay, their sins have been blotted out, and they've cleaned their lifestyle so much. They've pulled out of the world so far that they've retained their or restored. They've been restored to their virgin status. Okay, could be just symbolic of that. They are those following the Lamb wherever he leads them on. They were redeemed from among men, being first fruits to Yahuwah and to the Lamb. First fruits meaning in the first resurrection. And in their mouth was found no falsehood, for they are blameless before the throne of Yahuwah. See? So they're blameless, they don't sin. And I saw another messenger flying in mid heaven, holding the everlasting Besorah to announce to those dwelling on the earth, even to every nation, tribe, and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear Yahuwah and give esteem to him, because the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and the fountains of water. So here, where the messengers flying, holding everlasting Besorah to announce to those dwelling on the earth, everywhere, the entire planet. Okay. And another messenger followed, saying, Babel is fallen, that great city, because she has made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her whoring. And then a third messenger followed him, saying with a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark upon his forehead or upon his hand, he also shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahuwah, which is poured out undiluted into the cup of his wrath. And he shall be tortured with fire and sulfur before the set apart messengers and before the Lamb. And the smoke of their torture goes up forever and ever. And they have no rest day and night, those worshiping the beast and his image. Also, if anyone receives the mark of his name. Here is the endurance of the set apart ones. Here are those guarding the commands of Yahuwah and the belief of Yahusha. So the endurance of the set apart ones that are set apart, are those who are guarding the commands of Yahuwah and belief in Yahusha. So that's the two things that they're doing that are enduring. They're enduring to the end. Okay. But interestingly, let's back up here to 11. It says, And the smoke of their torture goes up forever and ever, and they have no rest day and night, those worshiping the beast and his image. Also, if anyone receives the mark of his name. So the worshiping the behemoth, the beast, is this apparently must be some kind of religious assembly or organization. Okay, that's what this is sounding like to me. In his image. So the image, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it is an evil person, a beast type person, evil and ruthless, and has his image. So he may be in the image of a man. Maybe it's the image of a religious system, and it has the image is the cross. There's something there. Okay. Also, if anyone receives the mark of his name, so the mark associated with his name you know. So what could that be? You know, there's a million different opinions out there about that. But the endurance of the set apart ones are those guarding the commands of Yahuwah and the belief of Yahusha, which back in chapter 12 we read that the remnant, the ones that have the dragon enraged, the remnant are the ones that are guarding the commands of Yahuwah and have the belief of Yahusha. So this must be talking about the remnant as well, a smaller group. Okay? And so now let's jump over here to Revelations 20. And it says, "And I saw a messenger coming down from the heaven, having the key to the pit of the deep, and a great chain in his hand. And he seized the dragon, the serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he threw him into the pit of the deep, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, so that he should lead the nations no more astray until the 1,000 years were ended." So he's going to be chained up, bound up with chains for 1,000 years of the millennium reign, basically. In other words, he's not going to be able to do anything to anybody. The chains could be metaphoric. We don't know. Shut him up and set a seal on him, so that he should lead the nations no more astray till the 1,000 years were ended. And after that, he has to be released for a little while. And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was given to them, and the lives of those who had been beheaded because of the witness they bore to Yahusha, and because of the word of Yahuwah, and who did not worship the beast, nor his image, and did not receive his mark upon their foreheads and upon their hands. And they lived and reigned with Mashiach for 1,000 years. And the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and set apart is the one having part in the first resurrection. The second death possesses no authority over these, but they shall be priests of Yahuwah and of Mashiach, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. All right. So this is the first. There's a first resurrection group that apparently is the higher calling and the remnant. Okay, that's going to reign with him for 1,000 years. So I think this is where the remnant ends. See what I'm saying? Yes, there is a remnant. Yes, it's a small group of people, and probably 144,000 is the count. All right, that's what it sounds like. And this first resurrection group is going to reign and be priests and reign with Yahuwah and Mashiach for 1,000 years, while the devil is bound up. He can't do nothing to anybody. His power's been totally revoked. Okay? So, this is very interesting. So, I think we can all agree from what we just studied that there is a remnant that will be delivered. But are those the only ones that will be delivered from the beginning to the white throne judgment? I think not. So let's see if we can do so. Let's study a little bit more and find out if this is the only people that will be delivered and given eternal life. Okay, it just doesn't sound like it to me. So let's read a little bit more and see if we can figure this out. So let's just start off our study to see if there's more people that will be delivered other than the remnant, which we believe at this point is the 144,000, which are the priests to Yahuwah and Mashiach, okay, that are going to be with him wherever he goes, which I believe is the bride, which is the higher calling that Paul was speaking about. And by the way, Paul said he couldn't say that, didn't know if he was going to be in the higher calling. Paul. So it's a hard thing to do. You know, Paul said he didn't claim to be in it, or didn't even know if he would be in it, but he was striving to be in it. He wanted to be, and he was trying to earn his way into the higher calling to be the bride of Yahuwah, the Yahusha. You know, and that's what we need to do too. If Paul was trying that hard to do it and was worried about it and was earnestly trying, being vigilant about it, then we should too. Okay? That means we have to surpass, okay, the effort of Paul if we want to be in the higher calling. We got to get going, man. Can't just sit around, you know, unless you're content in being in the white throne judgment, going in front of the judge, you know, and being judged by your works and your words. You know, you want to take that chance. I'd rather be in the higher calling. I preferably want to be the bride, going with Yahusha everywhere he goes. So it's a thing we have to strive for. Okay, that's why Paul said it's like running a race of endurance. You know, when you run the race, only one person gets the prize. You have to run it like you're trying to get the trophy. Only one person, the first place that wins the race, is going to get the trophy, right? And be first place person, win the prize, right? That's what he's saying. That's how you're supposed to run the race of endurance to try to achieve the higher calling, man. Like you're running against everybody else, and you want to get to that finish line first so you get the prize of the higher calling. That's what he was talking about. That's how bad he wanted it. And that's how he referenced it, is compared it to a race. Okay? So anyway, just go ahead and try to figure out this, if there's another flock or more people it's going to be delivered other than the remnant. Let's go to Psalms 103. Psalms 103, verse 8. Yahuwah is compassionate and showing favor, patience, and great in kindness. He does not always strive, nor maintain it forever. He has not done to us according to our sins, nor rewarded us according to our crimes. For as the Shemayim are high above the Arets, so great is his kindness toward those who fear him. As far as east is from west, so far has he removed our crimes from us. As a father has compassion for his children, so Yahuwah has compassion for those who fear him. For he knows how we are made. He remembers that we are dust. A man's days are like grass. As a flower of the field, so he flourishes. For the wind blows over it, and it is no more, and its place no longer remembers it. But the kindness of Yahuwah is from everlasting to everlasting upon those who fear him, and his righteousness to children's children, to those who guard his covenant, and to those who remember his orders to do them. Yahuwah has established his throne in the Shemayim, and his reign shall rule over all. Bless Yahuwah, you his messengers, mighty in power, who do his word, listening to the voice of his word. Bless Yahuwah, all you his armies, you his servants, you do his pleasure. Bless Yahuwah, all his works, in all places of his rule. Bless Yahuwah, my being. So here we go. He's great in his kindness towards those who fear him. Okay, and for he knows how we are made. He remembers that we are dust. So he's got compassion and favor on people, great kindness toward those who fear him, it says, for those who fear him. All right. So now let's go to John 10. John 10 says, Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter through the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up by another way, that one is a thief and a robber. But he who enters through the door is the shepherd of the sheep. The doorkeeper opens for him, and the sheep hear his voice. And he calls his own sheep by name, and leads them out. And when he has brought out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, because they know his voice. And they shall by no means follow a stranger, but shall flee from him, because they do not know the voice of the strangers. Yahusha used this figure of speech, but they did not know what he had been saying to them. So they didn't understand that. Yahusha therefore said to them again, Truly, truly, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. See, he's the door, the gate. All who come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. False prophets, perhaps? Usurpers? I am the door. Whoever enters through me, he shall be delivered, and shall go in and shall go out and find pasture. So here we go. We have to enter through Yahusha into the reign of Yahuwah. It's the only way in is through Yahusha. You can't earn your way in by being obedient. Okay? The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they might possess life, and that they might possess it beyond measure, more abundantly. He had come so they may possess it more abundantly. So he is, since he came, we now get to choose life or death. Okay, there's always been a life or death choice, but now Yahusha is the choice. So you choose Yahusha, you choose life. If you don't choose Yahusha, you choose death. Okay? I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. He had to lay down his life in order to purchase his sheep. He had to purchase them with his own blood. But the hireling, and not being a shepherd, one who does not own the sheep, sees the wolf coming and leaves the sheep and flees. And the wolf snatches the sheep and scatters them. Now the hireling flees because he is a hireling and is not concerned about the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and I know mine, and mine know me. Even as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Ooh, now, what did you just say? And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. I have to bring them as well. And they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one flock, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. Because of this, the Father loves me, because I laid down my life in order to receive it again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have authority to lay it down, and I have authority to receive it again. This command I have received from my Father. So there you go. He's saying he laid down his life for his sheep. Then he says something astounding, doesn't he? And other sheep I have which are not of this flock, I have to bring them as well. And they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. So he's going to have, there's two flocks. There's the first resurrection flock that he gathers from the first resurrection. Okay, and then there's another flock, okay, which he gathers to in the second resurrection, okay, and at the white throne judgment, okay, and then in the end, those two flocks come together, and they're all his one flock. Both flocks are put together in the same pen and become his property. And so he has one flock, not two flocks. They're two flocks, but then they come together and become one flock, his property, his treasured possessions, and he becomes the one shepherd over the one flock. See that? So there's two flocks. There's going to be more people than just coming out of that first resurrection group, out of the remnant. So there's another flock coming. So now we need to try to find out how big is that second flock going to be. All right? So let's continue on. So let's go to Matthew 25, verse 30. Matthew 25, verse 30. And throw the worthless servant out into the outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So a servant is getting thrown out. Somebody getting thrown out into the outer darkness. And when the Son of Adam comes in his esteem, and all the set apart messengers with him, then he shall sit on the throne of his esteem. And all the nations shall be gathered before him, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd separates his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then the sovereign shall say to those on his right hand, Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous shall answer him, saying, Master, when did we see you hungry, and we fed you, and thirsty, and we gave you drink? And when did we see you a stranger, and took you in, or naked, and clothed you? And when did we see you sick, or in prison, and we came to you? And the sovereign shall answer and say to them, Truly I say to you, and so far as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. And he shall then also say to those on the left hand, Go away from me, accursed ones, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his messengers. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, you did not take me in, was naked, and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. Then they also shall answer him, saying, Master, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison, and did not serve you? Then he shall answer them, saying, Truly I say to you, in so far as you did not do it to one of the least of these, you did not do it to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into everlasting life. So here we go. Okay. At the white throne judgment, all nations shall be gathered before him. All people in all the nations, everybody. And he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goat. The sheep on his right, the goats on his left. And he's going to say, Come, you blessed of my Father, and inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundations of the world. So he knew who his treasured possessions were, the vessels made for esteem, to be esteemed, from before he even made anything. So he knows who his people are, who his sheep are. So here, this is everybody that's ever lived. This is at the white throne. He's going to raise the second resurrection. He'll raise everybody up from the dead that ever lived. And he's going to separate the ones that are his, that he made as his treasured possessions, okay, vessels to be esteemed from before he created anything, over into his right side, and they're going to be the sheep. They're going to make up that other flock he was just talking about. The other ones were made vessels of destruction, and he knew that they were not his people, but he made them anyway because he's pure love. And they're going to be cast into the lake of fire. Okay? So there's going to be more. It still really doesn't give us a number, though, does it? But we know it's more people than the remnant in the first resurrection. We know that because the second death doesn't have any power over that first resurrection group, that remnant group. They've already been given immortality way before this. This is like 1,000 years later. This happens. This is everybody else that ever lived. Separate. He's creating his other flock. That second flock he was talking about. Okay? So, let's keep studying. All right. So let's go over to Revelations 20 and read from there in verse 7. It says, And when the 1,000 years have ended, Satan shall be released from his prison. And he shall go out to lead the nations astray, which are in the four corners of the earth. Gog and Magog, to gather them together for battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. All right, let's pause there. So when the 1,000 years has ended, the millennium reign of Yahushua has ended, Satan going to be let loose, okay, from his prison, wherever it is. And he'll go out and he'll lead all the nations astray, which is on the four corners of the earth. So people from all the nations are going to follow Satan when he's released after the 1,000-year millennium. And then they're going to, the army, he gathers them and makes an army out of them, an evil army, and gathers everybody together whose number is as the sand of the sea. That's a lot of people, sand of the sea. Okay, so in other words, between when the millennium reign starts, there's going to be people on the planet. Okay, there's going to be people, some few men left, and somehow maybe even others, and they're going to start breeding, reproducing, and they're going to repopulate the planet under the millennium reign. And they're not going to just live to be 70 years or 100 years old. They're going to be living to 700, 800, 900 years old. Some of them might even live the whole 1,000-year period, or very close to it. Okay? And so all these people living all this long time is going to be able to repopulate the earth rapidly. And who knows what the population is going to be. But I read one time somebody did the math on that, and it was like more people than all the people that's ever lived before that combined. There's a lot of people. So they're going to be able to reproduce in great numbers for almost 1,000 years. And so the Earth's population is going to skyrocket beyond anything it's ever was before. Okay? A lot of people. So the evil army led by Satan is going to be a number that is as the sand of the sea. So that's a lot of people right there, man. Okay? And they came up over the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the Kadeshim and the beloved city. And fire came down from Yahuwah out of the heaven and consumed them. And the devil who led them astray was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet are, and they shall be tortured day and night forever and ever. So here you go. All those people that sided with Satan when he was let loose, which was an army that couldn't really be counted, the sands of the sea. I mean, that's a lot of people. They were consumed. That means they were annihilated, gone. Satan was grabbed, thrown into the lake of fire with the beast and the false prophet. So all those people, dead. They're gone. They were consumed. Okay? Now, I don't think they're going to even be judged at the white throne judgment. I think they're just gone. Okay, well, during that millennium reign, there had to be some people that did die, you know. And then there was other people who did not follow Satan because they were encamped around the new city. Okay? And so they were following Yahusha and his bride. All right? So that a lot of people weren't consumed. It doesn't say how many, but by what we just read, we can assume very clearly, matter of fact, or project, that there was quite a few people camped around the new city in the camps of the saints, or the Kadeshim, right? That didn't get consumed. So those people are still alive. So, and I saw a great white throne, and him who was sitting on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away. And no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before the throne, and scrolls were opened, and another scroll was opened, which is of life, and the dead were judged from what was written in the scrolls, according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead and who were in them, and the death of the grave gave up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to his works. And the death and the grave were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And if anyone was not written in the scroll of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Okay, so here we find out that there's a great judgment, and some people, of all the people that ever lived, were thrown into the lake of fire, but the people who were written in the Lamb's book of life were not. So they're given eternal life. So here we go now. Now we have the people who repopulated the world during the millennium reign, still alive. We have the people that were in the Lamb's book of life, still resurrected and alive. Okay. And we have, which is, I believe, is the same story as in Matthew that we read with the goats and the sheep, just telling it a different way. So, anyways, we have this other flock now. It's obvious. There's other people other than the remnant that came up in the first resurrection. Is that not obvious? It is obvious. There's two flocks from the first resurrection and from the second resurrection that survived the millennium reign and became the sheep on the right hand, or the ones that were written in the book of life. Okay? So we have a group of people here now making up that second flock. We still don't know how big it is, but we know there is. Okay, so let's go to 21:24. And the nations of those who are delivered shall walk in its light, and the sovereigns of the earth bring their esteem into it. And its gates shall not be shut at all by day, and night shall not be there. And they shall bring the esteem and the appreciation of the nations into it. To have nations, you got to have a lot of people, right? And there shall be by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's scroll of life. So apparently, the people that are still around from the Lamb's book of life, and those who survived the millennium reign and chose to follow Yahushua and the bride, have made up the nations now. Right? That's what it seems like to me. So anyway, 22 verse 2 says, in the middle of its street and on either side of the river was the tree of life, which bore 12 fruits, each tree yielding its fruit each moon. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. See? So it has to be a lot of people, okay, in order for that tree of life to be healing of the nations with an S, plural. To make up nations, it has to be a multitudes. And no longer shall there be any curse, and the throne of Yahuwah and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him. And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And so his servants shall serve him. Okay. So there you go. I mean, there's obviously has to be some kind of population there, okay, that that exists, right? Other than just the remnant. It has to be more than just the remnant, don't you think? I mean, I do. But tell you what, let's take another small break here, and then we'll come back and wrap this up and see what we come up with. Okay, be right back. Hello. All right, I'm back. Let's continue on here and wrap this up. Revelation 7. Revelation 7 kind of gives it to us at the same time. The remnant group, the first resurrection group, and the second flock, or the second resurrection group. It kind of gives us the overall picture here. Now, we'll start off in chapter 6, though, in verse 9, so we kind of get it in context, get the picture in context, okay? And when he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the beings of those who, having been slain for the word of Yahuwah and for the witness which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, Master, Kadesh and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth? And there was given to each one of them a white robe, And they were told that they should rest a little while longer. So rest a little while longer. So rest to Yahuwah means they're dead. All right, they're resting. So this is obviously a metaphor. Okay, this isn't something literal that John is saying here, Yahukanan is saying. Because he's saying you must rest a little bit longer. Okay? So this is something that a vision, a metaphor that he's giving here. Though that they should rest a little while longer until both their fellow servants and their brothers who would be killed as they were was completed. Okay? So they're waiting on their brothers and their servants to be killed as they were. And so we'll go down here and pick it up in chapter 7 now and find out a little bit more about them and the remnant, which I believe is the bride. After this, I saw four Malachim standing at the four corners of the earth. So Malachim are angels or messengers, right? Holding the four winds of the earth. That's a metaphor or idiom. That the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another messenger coming up from the rising of the sun, holding the seal of the living Yahuwah. And he cried with a loud voice to the four messengers to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our Yahuwah upon their foreheads. And I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000. Sealed out of all the tribes of the children of Yezreel. So sealed with the name and the Ruach HaKodesh for the day of redemption. Right? Of the tribe of Yehuda, 12,000 were sealed. Reuben, 12,000. Gad, 12,000. Asher, 12,000. Naphtali, 12,000. Were sealed. In the tribe of Manasseh, 12. Simon, 12. Levite, 12. Yesashkar, 12. Sabulun, 12. Joseph, 12. Benjamin, 12,000 were sealed. And so that makes 144,000. 12,000 from each tribe. 144,000. And this I looked and saw a great throng. Okay, so he saw that the 144,000 who were sealed. Okay, this is an image now. This is a metaphoric projection. This isn't the reality he's seeing here. He's giving a glimpse, okay, into the future, or he's given a vision, okay, what's going on, what's going to happen, okay, in the end times, if you will. So there you go. He sees 144,000 that are sealed with the name, the Ruach HaKodesh, and now for the day of redemption. And they are called Yezreel, okay, who is his bride. Now all of a sudden, he's going to see another group. And here we go. In this, I looked and saw a great throng. A great throng. 144,000 isn't a great throng, is it? No, it's not. So he's seeing something else totally different now. He's seeing a great throng, which no one was able to count. So no man could count the throng the multitude that he's seeing now. So this ain't no 144,000, because you can count that. You know, you sit there and count 144,000. It may take you a while, but you can still do it, right? Here it's saying no one was able to count. So it's way more. That throng is way more than 144,000. So he's obviously seen another throng. And was not able to count out of all the nations and tribes and peoples and tongues. So this is a huge throng of people from out of the entire world, all the nations, languages, tongues, the people, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, dressed in white robes and palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, saying, "Deliverance belongs to Yahuwah, who sits on the throne, and to the Lamb." And all the messengers stood around the throne, and the elders and the 4 living creatures, and fell on their faces before the throne and worshipped Yahuwah, saying, "Amen. The blessing and the esteem and the wisdom and the thanksgiving and the respect and the power and the might to our Yahuwah forever and ever. Amen." And one of the elders responded, saying to me, "Who are these dressed in white robes? And where did they come from?" And I said to him, "Master, you know." And he said to me, "These are those coming out of the great distress." Oh, wow. That many people? Can't even count them coming out of the great distress? That's 3.5 year period. Okay. So, wow, huh? Having washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Because of this, they are before the throne of Yahuwah, and serve him day and night in his mishkan, his temple. And he who sits on the throne shall spread his tent over them. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun strike them, nor any heat, because the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne shall shepherd them and lead them to fountains of water of life. See, shepherd them, so they're going to be his sheep. It's a different flock here now. And Yahuwah shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. There you go. A great multitude, a great throng that no one can count coming out of the tribulation years. Coming out of the tribulation years. Okay, so that doesn't really give us so here we are. Okay, we have from the beginning of time, Adam and Chua, okay, all the way up to the flood, and then from the flood all the way up to the millennium reign, or the tribulation years, we'll say, beginning of the tribulation years, the 3.5 years of tribulation, the white throne judgment, where all the people that ever lived will be judged. Okay, so from Adam and Chua, from the beginning to the great white throne judgment, all the people that ever lived, including during the millennium reign, okay, have been divided. Some to go into the lake of fire. Some was going to be in the first resurrection group, will be part of the remnant, or the bride, that will go with Yahuwah wherever he goes. Yahushua, wherever he goes to, will be with him forever. Go where he goes. That will be his bride. And then you have his other flock that will be divided out among all the people that ever lived, and including those that are still remained alive during the millennium reign and died, because But I think the ones that was consumed are consumed. They're just gone, annihilated. They're not going to be judged. They've already gone. The ones that remained alive that followed after Yahushua and the bride will be judged. And so then there's going to be division between all the people that ever lived, and he's going to divide them into the sheep and the goats. Okay? The sheep and the goats, life and death. Okay? Vessels prepared for destruction, and vessels prepared to be a treasured possession before the foundations of the earth. They're going to be identified, separated, and the sheep will be come into the eternal reign and given immortality, and the goats will be annihilated into the lake of fire, okay, and destroyed. All right, and so that second group, the second flock, will come and unite with the first group, the first resurrection group, which is 144, and they will become one flock under one shepherd for eternal reign, off into eternity. Okay, so it's going to be a huge amount of people. It's going to be huge. So, is there anything in Scripture that gives us a better idea of how many people is going to be in the reign of Yahuwah? Okay, for eternity. And I think there is. And some people agree with me on this, and some people do not. So you'll have to read it yourself and make your own decision. But I think the ratio is given to us in Zechariah 13. Zechariah 13. Start in verse 6. And one shall say to him, what are these wounds in your hands? And he shall say, because I was wounded at home by those who love me. O sword, awake against my shepherd, against the man who is my companion, declares Yahuwah Sabaoth. Smite the shepherd, and let the sheep be scattered. But I shall turn my hand upon the little ones, and it shall be throughout all the soil. All the soil. That means the entire world, man. All the soil on the planet. And it shall be throughout all. A-L-L. There's that pesky little word all again. All the soil, declares Yahuwah, that two-thirds therein are cut off and die, and 1/3 is left therein, and 1/3 is left therein. And I shall bring the third that's left into fire, and refine them as silver is refined, and try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I shall answer them. I shall say, this is my people, while they say, Yahuwah is my Elohim. So there you go. I think that's your ratio between, when you put all that together, we just read, that's the bottom line, I think. So in other words, all the people that's ever lived on the planet from the beginning of time to the end of time, after the white throne judgment, okay, when all sin has been judged, everything has come into the fullness of time, everyone that's ever lived from the beginning to the end, okay, that 1/3 will go into everlasting life with Yahuwah, into the reign of Yahuwah, and 2/3 will be cut off and die and be annihilated. That's what I think. But even so, that 1/3 compared to that great multitude that would ever lived on the planet. And we're talking through all the people that repopulate the planet through millennium reign as well now. A lot of people here. Okay. I don't know how many it is, but it's going to be a great number that you can't count. It's going to be 1/3 of all those people. That's still a great number. Okay. It's not the majority of the people, it's only 1/3. 2/3 will be cut off. Okay, 1/3 will not, will live. So 1/3 will live, 2/3 will die. Choice between life and death. 2/3 chose death, 1/3 chose life. And that's the way he made it in the beginning, before the foundations of the earth. He knew that already. Okay, that's how he made it. So amazing, isn't it, that twice as many people would choose death over life? But I think that's the ratio. That's a lot of people. I mean, we can play around with the numbers, but we still ain't going to really know. But what we can do is play with the numbers enough that we come to a understanding that's going to be a great number deliver. It's not going to just be a little remnant, 144,000 people. No way, man. Not from what we just read. No way. So, if it is 1/3, if that is correct analysis, then let's just play with it for just a moment. We have 7 billion people on the planet right now. Okay, roughly 7 billion. All the people that lived from the time of Adam and Eve up to now is probably, maybe 1 billion. I don't know what it would be. But let's just say to make it easy, let's say it was 3 billion. Okay, just taking a wild guess. So if it was 3 billion, then we add that to what we got now. There's 10 billion. Okay, and then we'll just say by the time the tribulation starts, let's just say there's another 2 billion comes. So there's just this. We'll use 12 billion. All right. So then into the millennium reign, the Earth's supposed to repopulate, and the math on that is over a 1,000-year period, and everybody is living up to be, say, roughly 900 years old, that they can reproduce rapidly. The population of the world will get back up double of what it is now. Because remember, not only is everybody going to be living to be 800-900 years old over 1,000 years, there's not going to be hardly any death. There's not going to be sicknesses and killings and murders and crime and all that either in that 1,000-year millennium reign, because it says a child will be playing in the den of a cobra, and the animals will all be vegetarians again, So there's not going to be a bunch of killing and stuff going on and sin and crime like there is now. So people aren't going to be getting killed, nowhere near as much as they are now. So everybody's going to be repopulating. So they're saying in reality, in mathematics, if you do the math, it's about twice as many people as it is now. Okay. Just to save argument, let's just say that that's true. So then that would give us 14 billion. So that's 26 billion, right? So roughly 1/3 of that's going to be 7-8 billion people. Roughly the population of the planet right now, okay, is going to be delivered. And roughly 14-15 billion people will be annihilated. So there you go. Well, I think that's a lot of truth to that. And you go ahead and study it yourself. If you either agree with me or if you don't agree with me, that's okay. But I just wanted to point out a lot of that because I know A lot of people are going around saying that there's only 8 people survived the flood, so there's only going to be a handful of people surviving, uh, you know, living off into eternity. They surviving the fire and their destruction of the earth going to be destroyed by fire. So I think there's going to be a remnant survive the fire. You know what I mean? Like the flood, but there's not going to be a remnant in the eternal reign. See what I'm saying now? So anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope this brought some truth to the plate for you. And remember to stay in love with Yahusha HaMashiach. So long, Nazarene, beloved of Yahuwah. Bonus feature time. I know you wanted the bonus feature, right? Okay, let's go to Psalms 51. Psalms 51. Now, I think King David, otherwise known as David, which Scripture says was a man after, Yahusha said he's a man after my own heart. Okay, and I take that to mean that he had a lot of love in him. Okay, and so let's take a look at Psalms 51 and see what King David thought about all this eternity reign and how many people's going to be in it or how to get into it. Okay, see what he says. Show me favor, Yahuwah. So he's wanting favor because he knows Yahuwah can give favor to whomever he wants to give favor to. According to your kindness, according to the greatness of your compassion, blot out my crimes. Blot out my crimes. Wash me completely from my guilt and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my crimes, and my sin is ever before me. Against you, you alone, have I sinned, and done evil in your eyes, that you might be proven right in your words. Be clear when you judge. See, I was brought forth in crookedness, and in sin my mother conceived me. See, you have desired truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part you make me now, or make me know wisdom. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I am clean. Wash me, and I am whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my crookedness. Sounds like he's making a pitch to be in the bride, don't it? To be in the first resurrection group. He wants to be the bride, sounds like to me. Create in me a clean heart, O Elohim, and renew a steadfast ruach within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your ruach hakodesh from me. Wow, that's powerful stuff right there. Restore to me the joy of your deliverance, and uphold me, noble ruach. Let me teach transgressors your ways, so that sinners turn back to you. Deliver me from blood guilt, Elohim, Elohim of my deliverance. Let my tongue sing aloud of your righteousness. Yahuwah, open my lips, and that my mouth declare your praise. For you do not desire slaughtering, or I would give it. You do not delight in burnt offering. The slaughterings of Elohim are a broken ruach, a heart broken, a crushed and crushed, a heart broken and crushed. Elohim, these you do not despise. Do good in your good pleasure to Zion. Build the walls of Jerusalem. Then you would delight in slaughterings of righteousness, in burnt offering and complete burnt offering. Then young bulls would be offered on your altar. Here you go. Sounds to me that King David's making a pitch for to be the bride. He wants to be in the higher calling, the first resurrection group, sounds like to me. And that's what we ought to do too. And that's what Paul did. And that's what we need to do. Okay? So there you go. I thank you for watching, and so long, everybody. Peace and love to everybody. And remember to stay in love with Yahushua HaMashiach.
Living water, Baruch haba b'Shem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living water, Baruch haba b'Shem Yahuwah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my Yah. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha. Living Torah, Baruch haba b'Shem Yahuwah. Yahusha, living Torah, Baruch haba b'Shem Yahuwah. I sing out with praise to you. Your name is beautiful to me, my King. I sing out with praise to you. My heart desires to honor you, my Yah. I sing out with praise to you, Yahusha.